Hi, my name's Chris Sikora, and I'm going to step you through an introduction to Inventor 2021. This is actually a college-based course, so it's not like your typical tips and tricks video that only lasts a few minutes. So be aware it is a bit longer, it's more in depth, and also there's things that I'm going to talk about that are going to help make you better as an industry professional. Whereas many of the tutorials out there are for hobbyists, this one is actually for academic use. So plan on it being a bit longer and having more content than a typical YouTube video on this. Okay, what you can see here actually is the part that we're going to build today. And we're going to go through the interface as well a bit, but we're going to learn the foundations of this software. So first of all, what I would recommend doing is if you want, you could go to the website. V is in Victor, E, R, T is in Tom, A, N is in Nancy, U, X is in X-ray 1, don't forget the 1.com. And this is a web page here that you could actually access the exams, the videos, the part files, the instructional manual. In this case, we're looking for the instructional manual. So you click on that. And Inventor is always going to be in the green button. So anywhere you look here, like part files are in green, the videos, the link to the videos there is in green, and the exams are in green. So let's go ahead and we just want the instructional manual. So go to Autodesk Inventor, and you'll see here the training guide, instructional manual. Now, those of you who are taking my course at Elgin Community College, essentially this is a truncated version of your syllabus. There's actually more information on the syllabus I'm going to send you through D12. But you can still use this as your guide. There's really not that many changes between the two. What you see here, there's a link to the software, so you could download Inventor Professional 2021. The way you can do that, I'm going to just show you really quickly. You just go to autodesk.com. And then down below here, keep scrolling down, you'll see free software for students. Now, if you've never registered before, you have to, like here, get started. If you already have signed in previously, you have a login, use your Elgin email address, okay, for this. And basically, you could download all these different softwares like Inventor Professionals right there. But first, you got to get started and set up an account, use your Elgin email address, and then you could grab it down here, download it, and get the 2021 version if you can. And you need a 64-bit operating system to run it, by the way, so Windows 10. All right, so going back to the training guide here, as you can see, I also have it broken down. Those of you in my Inventor class at ECC, you are where it's actually only an 8-week course, so this is actually bi-weekly. So multiply this, like 1 and 2 will be the first week, 3, 4, second week, so on and so forth. And then I do give you the date for the midterm here. This might actually change a little bit here and there for my class, since it is online this semester. And down below here, the finishing date might be off a little bit. I haven't actually matched this up yet with, you'll actually have the real dates on your syllabus that I send to you. So that's just a roundabout. Okay, and these are all the different things we're going to cover in this class. We're going to cover by modeling parts, assemblies, and drawings. And then near the tail end of the class, we're going to take a look at a little bit of CNC programming, as well as some other entities. Those of you who want, you can fast forward or speed this up down in the lower right when you go to like the resolution. There's also, you could actually set it to 1.5 if I talk a little slow for you. Or you can slow it down, vice versa. All right, so that's the training guide. But let's see how we're going to build this part. First of all, once you get this software installed, you just go up here to New, or you could go to File, New, and just hit, you'll see there's Part, Drawing, and Assembly. You could go here, this is from a list of templates. So like, for example, if you wanted English versus metric, you could flip-flop. Those of you who download this in the United States, I believe it automatically defaults it to English units. So go ahead and click on part here. The first 4 classes, we're actually going to focus on just part modeling. The 5th class, we're going to take a look at assemblies. And the 6th class, or I should say week, we'll actually look at creating 2D drawings. And then we review for the midterm exam, and then you take the midterm that week. Okay, so now let's go over here. You'll see on the left here, they used to call this the browser, now it's just the model bar. But basically, other systems call it like a feature manager, design tree, or things like that. And what this does is it's a roadmap of everything that you have done, or that you have done once it's completed, as well as it contains these planes. And the planes are very important: the X, Y, XZ, and YZ. For example, the XY plane we're going to sketch on probably for the first 4 classes, so just be aware for our parts. And these are our paper, essentially, that we sketch on. They're infinite. Even though you see a little square there, you don't have to just focus on drawing inside of it. They're infinite. It's just there as a visual. So here's what I want you to do. Click on that XY plane. And then you'll see right in the center here, you have this little button, Create Sketch. Go ahead and select Create Sketch. Now, your setup might be a little different. Mine has a white background as for presentation purposes. You don't have to set it like mine, but you might want to. And let me show you where that's located right now. That's the Options menu. So you just go to File and go to Options, and then go to Color. And right here, select Presentation. And then Background Color, set it to 1 color. And then go to Display and turn on Use Application Settings. And again, these are just preferences. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but it will help, because when I say click on that green point, it might be orange in your screen. So if you don't set up exactly like mine, you just have to note that the colors might be a little different. So anyhow, here we could go to the settings. And my favorite is to actually go to shaded with edges right here. And 1 color. I like to see the edges as black. You're going to be able to see it a little bit better. That's why I like having that on. And if you have a decent graphics card, by all means, feel free to turn some of these on: the ground shadows, object shadows, ambient shadows, ground reflection. I'm not big on the ground plane, but some people like that. If you want, you can turn that on. And that's about it. Go ahead and hit OK. But this is really the heart of Inventor, where you could change and adjust all these settings. When you're ready, just go ahead and hit Apply or OK. And that's all we're going to look at for right now in there. But we'll take a look later on in other classes at that. Okay, so we've already started sketching, and your background might look just like mine now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the rectangle tool. If you hit the little arrow underneath rectangle, you see there's a lot of different options. There's polygon, slots, there's rectangle, 3-point, 2-point, things like that. We're just looking for 2-point. We're going to keep it really simple today. Move your pointer now to the origin. You get that feedback X and Y, and it should be 0 for both of those. And you'll get that little green dot in the center. That means you're snapping to center, and that's good. So that's your origin in space, your 0 marker per se. Go ahead and click, and then release the mouse button. Now move your mouse up to the upper right here, and you'll see some dimensions appear. Notice mine is highlighted up at the top there. It says 0.539. Yours might be a little different, and that's fine. What we're going to do is we're going to plug in some numbers while that's up. Now you could do it now, or you could do it later. I'm going to do it now just to show you how easy it is. It's really nice. This one is going to be 3 inches wide, so you don't have to hit backspace or delete or anything like that. Just type in 3. That's it. And I'm using my little keypad, so hit your number locks key if you like to use that. That's going to make you look really professional out there. Now go ahead and move your pointer over to this box, or hit the tab key on your keyboard. The tab key will automatically go to the next one there. Oops. And now go ahead and type in 5 and hit enter. And then hit escape on your keyboard. Escape will take you out of the tool, the rectangle tool that you're in. So escape's in the upper left corner. Now to zoom to fit, you could do one of 2 things. I like clicking on front here, and that will automatically zoom to fit. And you can see the dimensions are there. You could grab those and drag them. If you have a wrong dimension, now is the time you can just double click on it and type in a new value and hit the green check mark if you need to change them. But you can change them at any time, actually. You just have to double click on surfaces or the feature in the tree to edit it. Also here, this little front box will zoom fit. And then home, if you ever hear me say go home, I'm referring to click on this little button right here. And this brings you into an isometric view. It's very nice for 3D modeling. Okay, let's go ahead and now go to the 3D model tab up here and go to extrude. Now we want to extrude this a ½ inch. You can see right here, mine's set to 1 inch, but look at that little arrow. Get over that little arrow and it allows you to, if you click on it, you could drag to a specific depth. Like try and get to 0.5 if you can, and then release it. If not, you could just click in there and type in 0.5, or you can actually type in 0.5 in there. And then over here, you can hit OK. Now there's more options, and we're going to go through those another time in this lesson, just a little later. Hit OK. And now you have your solid model. Now what you can do is right up here you have the cube that allows you to click on, and you could select, like if you want to see the right face. You could also hit the little arrows and they'll rotate 90-degree increments. And they'll tell you what you're looking at. You could go back home. Again, go to front and notice there's also these little arrows for clockwise and counterclockwise rotation. Or you could actually click on this with your pointer and hold it down. Now, when I say click, I'm always referring to the left mouse button. That's one we use 90% of the time in this class. Now, if I'm going to have you click on the right mouse button, I'll say it twice usually, just so you recognize that that's the button. Okay, now the wheel zooms in and out. Now you can notice you could focus your pointer over a specific area. Like let's say that corner, I want to zoom up to it. You just keep it focused as you scroll on the wheel on your mouse, and it will zoom up to that region. And you could go back home. Now there's these other tools here. We don't need to use those, but there's pan, there's zoom to area, and things like that. There's rotation. You could tinker with those ones. What I want to show you are some of the most common ways here. Okay, now notice if you move your pointer to the center here and hold your middle mouse button down, you could pan left, right, up, and down. That's the middle mouse, and I refer to the middle mouse button as the wheel, and you're just pushing it down like it's actually a button and holding it, and then you move your mouse left, right, up, and down to pan. Now to rotate, it's a little extra. You have to hold Shift. So find the Shift key on your keyboard. Either one of them will work. And now hold the middle wheel down and move left, right, up, and down, and you'll see it will rotate dynamically. So Shift and the wheel. Okay, let's go back home and let's continue on. Now, we want to sketch on the surface. You could sketch on planes like we did earlier. We selected that X, Y plane. Now you can actually click on a flat surface. As long as it's flat, you can sketch on it. So I'm going to click on this face, and then over here, notice we have some options. We have create sketch, and that's what we want actually, but let's just look at some of the other options. Look at that one, make sketch visible. So if you wanted to, you could bring up those dimensions and double click on them and change them. You also have share sketch. So if you want to send that off to another, there's also edit sketch. That will actually edit it. It'll bring the dimensions back, and it'll go back into the edit mode where you could sketch additional geometry or change it if you want. And then there's edit extrude. That will bring you back to where we had that little box in the upper left that allowed us to give the depth and such, how far we wanted to extrude. So those are some of the options there. Let's just go to create sketch though, and click on front again. Now take your rectangle tool, again the same rectangle tool we used before, and hover over this lower left corner and click. Now drag this to the right. Now we could put in dimensions here. We could type in 3. It's actually snapping to it. Now there's 2 layers of dimensioning / constraints that you have here. You have the ability to use dimensions, and you have the ability to use relationships, which are constraints like coincidency, tangent, perpendicular, parallel, things like that. Now, if we were just to click on this edge, it's going to default to the coincident relationship to the right edge, so it's locked in. So it doesn't need that 3-inch length. But because I clicked there, it negated the dimension to the right for how high we wanted it. Now we could have gotten it to the midpoint, but that's not what we wanted. So here's what I want you to do. Hit escape. And now find the dimension tool. Now this is when you need to add dimensions on a more normal basis. Notice D is the fast key for it if you ever want to get there, because it's used very commonly. Now go ahead and select this bottom line here, and then click on, move your pointer up and click on this top line. Now drag it over to the right. Now those of you who are new to making drawings, here's some advice. think of it like this isn't a detailing class, but I do want you to know a little bit about the rules. Think of it, you want to try and make the dimension as easily readable as possible. So think of it as a field goal. And if you want to make sure that field goal makes it, you're going to try for center, especially if there's no blockage. So find the center here and get that dimension right in the middle and a little bit away from the line so it doesn't overlap, like about where I have it. Click. Now, go ahead and type in 1.5 and either hit enter or the green check mark. And so now notice it either squeezed it down or maybe made it a little bit bigger depending upon where you dropped the sketch initially. But now it's locked down. Okay, so now we could go to 3D model, the tab. Notice the sketch tab is all two-dimensional tools pretty much. The 3D model is just that. It's to bring your 2D sketches into the 3D world. So go to extrude and notice it automatically picked up on that profile. If it doesn't, just click inside that profile and it'll start to pull itself out. Now we do actually want it at 0.5 and you have the drag handle. You could change it if you'd like, but I'd like my students to keep it at 0.5 right now. Later on you can tinker with them. I definitely encourage you to have a little fun with it. But anyhow, 0.5 is what we wanted. Remember that from the last time we extruded it. Let's go ahead and just hit OK. Notice it merged the two bodies. There was an option in there, we'll see that, where you could actually make them separate bodies too, but we're good the way it is. Now we want to put a hole right about here. Now there is a hole tool. Now the hole tool is really nice. It actually has a library of countersinks, counterbores, general types of holes. We're going to learn that the fourth class, so exercise 4. So it's we don't need to see it right now. Instead, I want to show you how to use just the standard extrusion tools again. So go ahead and click on this face and create sketch and click on front, the box up here. And now go to the circle tool. If you hit the little arrow under circle, you'll see there's a center point, tangent, ellipse. Just go with center point. Move your pointer to the upper left quadrant of this rectangle here and click. Now drag out a circle and go ahead and before you click again, remember you could use the keypad or the numbers on top. Type in 0.75. That's for the diameter. Hit enter. Now we need to locate that. So we need to locate it off of edges that are readily available. So go to the dimension tool and we locate it typically from center. That's so because when you measure something, you're not typically measuring to the outside of the edge. It's not usually what you want. You want to give someone a direct line of how to locate where to drill. So dimension from this point here in the middle to this left edge. Imagine just like if you had to build this part, you would take your tape measure and measure from center to the edge. So go ahead and select that. Drag this up and get it centered between the goalposts. Remember that little rule? And type in 1 for 1 inch. Now I have students who I've seen type in 1.000 or they backspace and they type 1. Now if you ever get a job using Inventor or any CAD system, that's one of those big no-nos I would recommend you don't do because it makes you look amateur. Part of this class, some of you say it's too much fluff when I give these recommendations. It's 23 years of working in this industry and recognize it. I was actually a manager, and basically if I sat down and gave someone a test I might want to hire, those would be some of the things I would look at and I'd say, oh, looks like maybe they don't know the software as well, perhaps. So that's why I give those recommendations. Okay, go ahead and select that center point there to the top edge, drag it over here to the left, center it, click, and that's 1 inch. So it's 1 inch off the top, 1 inch off the left. Now go to 3D model and extrude. Now again, we were lucky it picked our circle, but if it didn't, just click in that circle or click on the circle boundary. Now we want to cut this. So we want to flip it. So let's use this little properties box over here for a moment. We could use a drag handle, but I want to show you this. So you see the behavior, first of all, the direction. Let's go with the flipped direction. Now, not only did it flip, but it went to cut it. There's some AI built in here, artificial intelligence, that knows it had a volume behind it. So you wouldn't typically want to extrude volume over volume. So it knew to just remove the material, which is really nice. But note it doesn't always do that, depending upon the conditions behind it. So just always double check, make sure it looks like a hole. Now, we want that not only just to go at 0.5, that's being a little bit short-sighted in industry. Typically, when you're working in the design and engineering field, when you make a design, the first design is a conceptual design. A lot of times it has to be modified and changed. Let's say this is some sort of mounting bracket and we had it 1/2 inch thick, and then we realized later on, that's not strong enough. We need to make it thicker, perhaps, maybe 3/4 of an inch. If you left this thickness at 0.5, then you change the main bulk of the rectangle thickness to 0.75. You'd have to go back to this feature too and edit it and change it. And you can have a whole array of features that were done that way. So there's something called design intent. And design intent crosses over all CAD systems. It's your plan on how you want things to update if changes do occur. So in this case, it's always going to be a through hole. So let's make sure, so no one has to go back and just change this hole. So instead of 0.5, find this little one through all and hit OK. Now, if it's not cutting, by the way, right here you have to select cut. Notice there's join and cut. So go ahead and hit OK. And there's our cut. Now, if you want to test this, hold Shift and the wheel, push the wheel down like it's a button, move your mouse left, right, up and down, and you can see now how it's cut through. Let's go back to the home button. Now let's take a look at some of the really fun things to do here. Let's make it a little bit better looking. Go to the fillet tool. The fillet is just like if you took a file and you wanted to round off an edge, made it nice and rounded. So let's set the radius. We'll keep it at 0.125. That's fine. We'll change it as we click on the edge. Now what you do is you tap the edge where you would hit it with a file if you were filing it down. So click on this edge right here. Oops, I have to click in this little box here because I was tinkering inside there. So I'm going to click on this edge. Now I see a little preview and there's a drag handle. Go ahead and grab it, push it in. Okay, so you can actually get, and it tells you over here the feedback, like get it to 1 inch or click in there and type in 1 inch. Now go ahead and click back on one selected there and now hold Control and select this edge here. I'm not even sure you have to hold Control these days. Now, let's say I select this edge. Oh, you don't have to hold Control here. You do have to hold Control, though, I think, to deactivate it. So, yeah, if you hold Control, like that edge I don't want, so I want you to turn it off. So get on that edge when it turns red, holding Control, click on it, and it will remove that feature. So it's like a light switch. Click on it once, turns on. Hold Control, click on it a second time, it'll turn off. Go ahead and hit OK. So you can see those nice rounds that we have now. What I want to try next is let's try chamfer now. Chamfer is a little bit different. Chamfer is actually an angle, and you get to put in how many degrees you want it typically, or at what points the angle is supposed to start and end. So in this case, let's keep it at 0.125. Now you'll notice there's distance to distance, and on a 90-degree edge, that's going to make, as long as both distances are equal, it's going to make a 45-degree angle. Or if you wanted, you could actually go two distances, varying distances, distance and angle, where you could type in 45 degrees, 30 degrees, whatever angle you might want for the chamfer. But let's keep it distance to distance and just keep this the way it is. And select this edge. And you'll see it will give you a nice preview. That looks good, but we'll keep that one. Click on this edge right here. Now, go ahead and hit OK. And now we've just dressed up a very ordinary part. Okay, let's hold Shift and your wheel, move your mouse left until you rotate it like that. Now notice sometimes little circular motions could help you position it either forward or backwards, clockwise or counterclockwise. And so let's say you wanted to get this back corner, and there really wasn't much of an option there. We could click on this back, bottom, and left, center. And that gives us a nice little back area there. So if you wanted exactly like mine, feel free to do that on that little box there. Click on that corner. And it gives us an isometric view from that perspective. Now we want to shell this out, make it a thin-walled part. This is usually more of an advanced feature that we see later on, but I like putting it in the very beginning to show you some of this cool stuff. So go to Shell, and now if you just leave it as is, it's going to shell it all out on the inside. But in this case, we want some openings here. So what you do, leave it at 0.1 for that's the typical wall thickness. Click on this backside face. Now, go ahead and select this side face and this bottom face. And notice the faces you click on get removed. Go ahead and hit OK. And now we're really done with it. Let's go back home. There's your model. Now let's add a little color to it. So up here, you'll see that it says generic, and you could pick out like all types of really neat things here. Materials. Now, when you pick out these materials, actually, it's putting in the weight of that material. So you could look up how much it weighs and do all types of really neat things, okay? But what we'll do instead, let's just go with the aesthetics here. Click on the default there. And here you can actually see what they look like. What I'm going to go with here, let's see, I think I'm going to go with the chrome polish. Go ahead and try that. Just click on chrome polish, and you'll see it should look kind of like a chrome finish. Now, let's go ahead and hold control, and select these chamfers, these surfaces here, and then select that surface of the hole. Let's say we want to change the color of that. Now you could go over here, and let's go with dark green. And now you've applied that to those surfaces. So you could apply it to surfaces or the whole body. It's up to you. Okay, now that completes that exercise. Make sure those of you who are in my class, what you want to do, make sure you save these, because at the end of the semester, I collect a portfolio from you. And I really encourage you to do this. If you have a portfolio, you could go into a company and show them what you've done over the course of the course. So that's what I'd recommend doing. And there's actually some labs that you have to do next, but hold on for the labs a second. I just want to show you here. So you could go over here to File, and you have Save As. And if you do a Save As here, that's not what I was looking for. Let's see here, export. There we go. There's 3D PDF or PDF. I'm actually fine if you give me like an isometric or a home view, as I call it, like this, and you just go to export file as PDF, I'll be able to open it up and I could give you your grade. Now, when you collect all those different PDFs there, you could combine them later and you have a nice portfolio that you can print out and such. So either way, you can send them to me individually. I typically do like them in a Word document, or if you don't have Word, there's a free software here. And let me show you this. LibreOffice, you could Google that. And LibreOffice is free. And let me just bring it up over here so you can see it. It's very similar to the Microsoft products. And again, free. So let's say you wanted to grab that image as is. First of all, if you want to really dress it up, here's some neat things. You could go to View and go to Orthographic and go to Perspective and see what that does. Perspective gives you a vanishing point. Just like when you take a photograph, things get smaller the further they are away from you. That's what this is doing. Notice how this is now smaller down below here than it is up there. Set that. Now go to Shadows and turn on all shadows. Reflections, make sure that's on too. And I think this is pretty good. You have these different backgrounds like empty lab. Let's see what that looks like. Kind of weird. Let's see, dark sky. Oh, that's too dark for me. Again, whatever you like. Let's see, I wanted the default IBL. Okay, now you could actually go over here to Visual Style and go to Realistic. And look at how it enhances the image even more. And if you really want a smooth image, go to Ray Tracing and click on Ray Tracing and you wait. And the faster processor you have, the faster this is going to render. The more it actually utilizes your multiple cores, so it can be very fast. Okay, so as you can see there, we have our rendering. And I'm going to move my pointer out of the way, and this is what you do. You hold Alt on your keyboard, and there's a print screen key up at the top right. Hit print screen. Now you could go back to Libre or Microsoft Office, click on here, and this is going to be E1 for exercise 1. And if you want, you could put a little statement down of the different things. Like we've covered extrudes, both boss extrude and cut extrude. Okay. We've covered chamfers, fillets, shelling. So if we want, we could put those down. Let's summarize that. So we'll do extrudes, fillet, chamfers, and shell. And you can select those, and up here you can put down bullet points. Enter a couple times to get past it. Now to bring the image in, go hold Control and hit V as in Victor, and that will paste your image. Now to crop this, you could just click on this, and let's see, I think there's crop right there, crop image. And I'll grab these corners and drag them in to get rid of the excess of the interface, unless you want that. I've had students leave it in, and then it's kind of like proof that it was done in that software. It's entirely up to you. Now you can click here, drag this right over here, and make it big. It's really nice if you can add more than one. I'm going to hit enter several times here, get that above it. There we go. And now I'm going to prepare for exercise 2, or lab 1, lab 1B. And you could add those in there, and now you have the beginning of a wonderful little portfolio. Okay, so in the training guide that we were looking at earlier, as we go down here, as you can see, I give you step-by-step instructions on how to use that. Here I have the labs now. The labs start on page 20 and 21. There's 2 of them. Now, what I recommend my students do, I'm still going to show you a video on how to do it, but I would recommend pausing and trying to use what you've learned to create this geometry. We haven't gone through individual lines yet, so you might want to watch this first one and get an idea how it works. But I strongly encourage my students to actually try these on your own and then go back and watch the video once you're done, or if you get stuck, watch the video to help you through it. Because with every exercise is like your chapter. So there's exercise 1 for the first day, exercise 2 for the second day, E3, E4, E5. And the labs are right after the exercises in the training guide and also in these videos. So not every video, some of them I might refrain from having the lab because I want to test my students to see where they're at, if they're capable of doing it, and give them additional help if they need it. But in this case, you can see here it is. I'm going to hit download. And what download does is it'll bring it up in the bottom left. I could click on it. And now I have the ability to go back to that page 20. And you could rotate now. So right here, there's the rotation. Now, I'm doing this in Firefox. So Firefox is the browser I'm just using here. All the browsers are a little bit different, but most of them will have a rotate. If it's not there, you could just right click, usually you'll see rotate. So it depends on the browser. Okay, so here we have this, it's like the letter F that's flipped on its side. We can see the overall dimensions are 2 by 3.5. And then we have this 1.75, 2, things like that. Now what I recommend, and I have dual screens, I'm going to do this, is I'm going to drag my drawing over, and so that way I could just model it so you guys can see it right away. So I'm going to go new up here. Now when I went to the little new button there, this is where the templates are. So look at this, if you wanted some additional templates, there's metric. Okay, there's even mold design too for those of you who are in that industry. But let's go with the standard IPT, and we're not in metric, we're actually using English, by the way. So standard IPT, and hit create. Now, again, on the left here, select the little plus symbol next to origin, and I would recommend just drawing these on the XY plane typically. Maybe have a little fun, try it on the YZ, which is like the top. This is the front plane, top is fine too. So click right here on the XY plane. Now, the logic behind like what plane to draw on, I tell my students, because over the 23 years I've been teaching, if I was too stern on making them think it through on which view to draw first, it takes them forever to get started. So I want you to just dive in and start modeling, and then you could think of how it works later. Because quite honestly, once you get to a higher level, it really doesn't matter too much what plane you sketch on. It does help. It makes things a lot better once you understand the logic, but it doesn't hurt too much initially. So just try and select a plane and draw on it. Like I said, typically we'll be using X, Y. For the midterm, there will be a reason to do it on the X or the YZ plane, but that's, and I'll explain that reason later on. Okay, so here we are with this. Now we're going to use the line tool. So if you hit the little arrow under line, you'll see there's line, splines, equation-driven curves, bridge curves. We're just going to use line. Now move your pointer over here. The first dimension will just go straight up from the origin. So I'm going to click here when I get that green dot, drag it up, but I'm not going to click. Instead, I'm going to type in 2 and hit enter. All right, so now I'm just using the wheel to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to go to the right here, and this next one is just supposed to be 1 to the right. Make sure you get 90 degrees below it. 1, enter. Now go down. This next one is actually supposed to be 1, but don't type it in because I'm going to show you a different route. The way we want to try and follow what the drawing shows us. So just get it down close to 1 and click. Now drag it across here. Now this one again, we're gonna put in the dimension according to the print. So just get it to about 3/4, like around 0.7 or 0.8-ish. Click, drag it up, and see that alignment that you get there? If you got that, that's good. Go ahead and click. Drag this across, and again, it's going to be like a 1/2 inch or so, just around there. Click. Now drag this next one down, but it's going to go a little lower than halfway. So look at like 1.1, 1.2 is pretty good. Make sure you get the 90 degrees there. Click. Now drag to the right, and again, we're not too worried about this dimension, just maybe around a 1/2 inch or so. Click, drag down, make sure you get 90 degrees. Click, and now connect it here to the very end. Click. Now, those of you who know AutoCAD can be using like the C for close and things like that. If I recall correctly, it has many of the same common keyboard commands that you're used to with AutoCAD. So be aware there's that whole area there that you can use, those of you who have AutoCAD experience. All right, let's go to dimension now. Click on this bottom line, drag this down, center it, 3.5. Now we want baseline dimensions. Baseline dimensions have a base for their 0, and then you just keep moving across. So right here is the first one. Click, that's our base. Now click on this edge right here, drag that up, click, and that's going to be 1.75. Again, use our base, click here to this area here, and drop that up there. And notice how I'm staggering them. And that's, again, you want to make it as easy as possible for the next person to read. Now, also, there is logic behind laying it out, like how you'd want to see it on a drawing. I'm going to hit escape here, and I'm going to drag that one out a little bit. Now, the reason you might want to make it look like it's going to go into a drawing, because many times drawings are still used, not all the time. There are companies that have gone paperless, but if many companies still make drawings, and we're going to learn how to do that in the 6th class period, or exercise 6. If you want to watch that E6 video, just type in E6 Inventor, and you can see it, how we make drawings in here. Okay, so we have that. Now let's go to 3D model, go to extrude. Let's go to home, just so we can see the isometric view. And let's type in, let's see, this was supposed to be 0.5 thick. And there it is. What I encourage you to do, I've been called the Bob Ross of CAD sometimes. I encourage you to dress it up, enhance the image. This is a very boring part, but you can make it look really pretty special by adding fillets as well as chamfers and shelling. And it's a great experience for yourself to feel comfortable with using this. You're going to learn actually more by tinkering with it than you'll probably learn in my class. So go to fillet. If you want to do this just for fun, I'm going to type in here, I'm going to go with 0.25 and hit enter. Now you can go ahead and select some of these edges, and look at this, you have some x-ray vision right there. You can see through the part to get that back edge. Click on this one here, and let's say we just want to keep those. We can hit OK. Let's try out the chamfer tool. Find chamfer, and we've used this before, 0.125 on that edge. That looks pretty good. Well, we'll put this edge on there too. Hit OK. And let's say we want some other fillets. Let's go on this edge here. that one there. And Shift and the middle mouse button, get that one there too. Hit OK. All right, now let's go ahead and shell it. Click on this face, go to Shell, and it will automatically hollow out that face. And if you want, you can actually click on this face too to hollow that out. Look at that interesting ramp you get there. And hit OK. And so now you've just made a much more complex part from a very basic part. You could even add rounds after it, but you got to be careful with fillets, I should say. Keep them small if you're going to add them after. Like I'm going to add a 0.06, like along that edge there and that edge there. Okay, so at that point, again, you could enhance the appearance. Let's just go here. Let's say if I picked one of these materials, like, for example, let's go with silver. And it grabs the properties of that, and now you can actually see it. All right, and then remember, you could also go in here and select, like, let's say I want just that face to change color. You could go to the color wheel and select a different color or pick a different material. So let's go with, let's see here, go with red. And then get it in some sort of position that looks good, and feel free to go to the view, turn on perspective, and turn on the visual style to realistic. And bingo, now you have a pretty impressive looking part for your portfolio. We're, again, Alt, and hold Alt, hit print screen. Let's go back to our portfolio here. This one actually is Lab 1, so I'm going to enter L1, enter, Control V, click on it, go to crop, and we can make it a bit smaller if we want. There we go. And it depends on how you want to lay them out. This is fine. Actually, that goes kind of well. You could kind of put them in different view orientations. You could probably even put the L1 up here, E1, L1, whatever you want to do. Those of you, this isn't the Microsoft Office class, but you could definitely do some neat stuff with that. All right, let's get to the next part. Now, the next part is this one here, Lab 1B. So you can see its overall thickness is 1.5 inches. It's 3 by 5, has 4 holes positioned 3/4 of an inch off of each corner. It's symmetric on all 4 sides, and the through holes are 1/2 inch deep. And then there's this cutout in the center of 1/2 inch. So here, let's go ahead and model that. Now, try it on your own first, and then you could go ahead and watch my video. I'm going to hit create here. I'm going to show you probably, there's a dozen ways, by the way, you can model this. Don't feel bad if you didn't model exactly like mine. The key is you're learning, and you're learning different methods. All right, mine aren't always the best or fastest. There's some that are better out there. So, okay, so I'm going to hit origin. I'm going to select the, let's go ahead, just for the for kicks today, let's go with the XZ plane for this one, and click on sketch. Now, instead of the 2-point rectangle, this is a symmetric part. So we could actually try 2-point center. Whenever something's symmetric, think of using the center tools. So 2-point center, get it right on the origin, click and drag this out. And remember, it's 5, hit tab by 3, enter. Now go to the home button. There we are. Now, actually, let's go to top and let's put in the holes. We're going to actually draw the holes into the solid. Sometimes this is beneficial. Sometimes there could be drawbacks because they're not their own feature, but that's okay. Let's, first of all, draw the circle right here, and don't touch those lines. Stay away from the lines because you want it free floating for the time being until we position it. So click, drag this out, make it 0.5. You could put all 4 in if you like, but I'm going to show you a shortcut. I definitely recommend shortcuts when you can. It's good practice, though, to do them individually if you want. But the shortcut I'll show you in just a moment. Okay, we have the 0.5. Now I go to dimension. Click on the center point to the left edge. The order really doesn't matter, left or top. And it's going to be 0.75. Center point of that drill hole to this top edge. Drag it over here, 0.75. hit escape, get those dimensions laid out so they're not overlapping. You want to make it look nice. Okay, now I want to show you how to bring it over to the other side. We're doing this a whole class period earlier than normal, but this is really cool. We're going to use the mirror tool. Mirrors and patterns speed things up in the process of sketching, and also reduces having to dimension everything, especially if it's symmetric. So here's what I want you to do. In order to get this to work, go to the line tool. Now we're going to make lines so that we can mirror across them, and they have to be like center lines, okay? And so over here you'll see center line. So we have the line and center line for this. Now there's other ways to do this. You could do it afterwards too. You don't have to do it right now, but watch this. I'm going to click on here, drag up a vertical center line. Notice I keep it centered. I'm going to hit escape. And then go back. You could also right click. You get this wheel here and you could go back to line. It remembers the last option. So right click will bring up the wheel. And also look at that. There's all these other options, which we'll look at later. But at the 12 o'clock, there's create line. So it actually goes back to our line. So we don't have to click on the icon again if you want that. All right, now go back to the origin right there. When you get the green dot, click and drag it up horizontally. Click. Now hit escape. Now it's important to turn off the centerline tool, because as you start sketching, if it's stuck on, your lines aren't looked at by Inventor to extrude. It's just construction geometry. It's innocuous. So let's turn that off. Okay. Now, watch this. We're going to look at the mirror tool a whole week early. Click. First of all, just go to the mirror tool icon right up here, mirror. Now notice this, there's a select button and a mirror line. Now notice the select is blue. It's been pushed in already for us. So that's what you want to mirror. So click on the outside of the circle because that's what we want to mirror. Now go back here, and this is for selected mirror line. Notice it's singular, it's not plural, so you can't do both sides at once, at least as far as I know. Go ahead and select the vertical center line, and then hit apply. And there it is, mirrored it over. And notice these little symbols indicate symmetry. So if this ever changes its location, this one will update relative to it as though it's with the mirrored symmetric capability. Now let's do something more here. We're still in select. Try this, click and drag a fence from left to right to just create an envelope around those two circles. Release it. They should both be highlighted. Now go to mirror line, and let's try the horizontal center line now. Click and hit apply and hit done. There you go. Now we have our circles. Let's go to 3D model. Notice I'm not putting the cutout in the center. That is, it's not really a mistake. It's just not necessary yet. Okay. So I just don't want to waste my time putting it in. Go to extrude. Let's go to the home button up here. And now you have to select sometimes to help along these profiles. We're going to set it to, we could either click in here or here, set it to 1.5 and hit enter. Now click on this face. We want to make the cutout that's centered. Start a sketch. Go back to the center rectangle. Click at the center, drag this out, and snap it to this edge. And we'll use the dimension tool again to dimension. So go to dimension, dimension from this edge to this edge. Now it's centered, so we don't need to locate it with the dimension because it's all symmetric. Click, drop it up there. This is going to be 1.5. Hit enter. Now I go to 3D model, extrude. Now notice this time it's going above. We actually want it to go down. So you could grab the arrow and drag it down, and it knew to flip it to cut right there, which is nice. Sometimes it's not going to do that for you, so just always double check. Make sure it looks right. And let's set it, it's only supposed to go 1 inch thick, and actually I got lucky. I just got to 1 inch. Go ahead and hit OK. Done. Again, I encourage you, have some fun with this. It'll make this class a lot more interesting to play with the software. Go to fillet. Click on this edge here, push that in, like 3/4 of an inch. That looks pretty good. Click on this edge here. Use your Superman X-ray vision. Click on this back edge. Hit OK. Go to the chamfer tool. Select this edge here. It's 0.125 by the default on mine. Also, think of this. What if you wanted countersinks? Click on these edges. Now, there is actually in the hole tool real countersink. So rather than putting them in like this, you just have to specify exactly what the countersink parameters are, but that's another way of doing it. Hit OK. Let's go back to fillet. Click on here. That's a little bit big. Let's drag it down to maybe a 0.25. Type that in. And then get this corner here. Hit OK. And let's go to the fillet tool. Let's put a small 0.125 fillet on that edge and that edge there. All right, flip it around the back side. Now go to shell, select that face. We can leave it at 0.1. Sometimes the shell will fail, by the way. If you put fillets that were smaller than the actual shell wall thickness, Inventor is a pretty good modeler. It could sometimes compensate for it, but sometimes it'll say it's too small for conditions. But go ahead and keep there, hit OK. And look at that. And again, feel free to enhance the image. Let's go to over here. I'm going to go with, let's see, have fun with something. Let's click on, let's go with clear green. All right. Now I know that doesn't look all that great just yet, but once we go over to view, let's turn on perspective again and visual style, realistic. Still maybe not all that great. Let's try the ray tracing. Now ray tracing gives you a much more realistic appearance. And there, now you can actually see it looks like clear plastic. And so again, adding a new level of enhancement. Once you got that the way you like it, you could add additional colors and things like that if you wanted, but I'm going to go ahead and hit Alt, print screen. I'm going to turn off ray tracing because it does soak up resources. Now I'm going to go over here to my area here, Control V, and I'm going to crop. Bring that in. And I look at that. Now I've got the whole chapter, exercise 1, lab 1B, done. So every week, those of you who are my students, I hope you do this. It's really great to learn, and I hope you enjoy this class. Another thing, some of you might discover, let me go back to shaded with edges. Sometimes this happens to you. Someone clicks on this little button up here, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, all my toolbars have disappeared. It's just this little button up here, show full ribbon. Keep clicking on it, it'll cycle through. Okay, that's one thing that could be annoying. So just be aware of that. Also, there's the user interface. Now, if you don't want some of these on, you could turn off like the view cube. That's this little guy right over here. The navigation bar, turn that off if you don't want that. Mini toolbar, actually, where's that popping up? Status bar down below, you might not want that. Documents tab, marking menu, model browser, that takes away your model tree there. Okay, but we do want that. That's important for this class. So notice you can turn those on or off. All right, that concludes exercise 1.